Move on from just triangles and talk about polygons that have multiple sides greater than 3. So polygons are going to be those closed geometric figures, meaning they have no breaks, no gaps in the lines, and they're classified by the number of sides they have. So if something has 7 sides, I call it a heptagon. If it has 10 sides, I call it a decagon. And then I have some images on the side so you can see what each shape would look like. If I'm trying to study the angles of a polygon, I need to notice that any quadrilateral, meaning 4-sided shape, can be divided into 2 triangles. So I could then use those 2 triangles to draw out some information about the shape. Each triangle would add up to 180 degrees. So in the example I have, I'd have 180 times 180 plus 180, which is 360. Maybe proofs aren't your jam. If proofs aren't your jam, this will work always. N is the number of sides. So if I have a quadrilateral with 4 sides, 4 minus 2 is 2. 2 times 180 is 360. So never fear if you're not great with using those proofs. Now I want to use that same formula to find the sum of the measures of angles of a heptagon. Heptagon, 7 sides. So I'm going to take that formula, plug in 7 for n, 7 minus 2, which is 5, and then I'm going to take the 5 times the 180 to get 900 degrees. Now it's important to notice that's not the measure of each angle, that's the measure of all the angles inside the polygon being added together. Just as there are special names for triangles, we do have special names for different polygons. A trapezoid is a quadrilateral that has exactly 2 parallel sides. So if you notice, the top and the bottom are parallel lines. The sides, though, will eventually cross if we imagine them extending out for forever. In a parallelogram, I have 2 pairs of parallel lines. A rectangle is a parallelogram that has 4 angles that are all going to be right. A rhombus has, again, 2 pairs of parallel sides, but all sides are equal in length. Now, what's the difference in a rhombus and a square? In a square, all sides are equal in length, and there are 4 right angles. So the way that I look at the relationships of polygons is I can classify them with numerous things. Every 4-sided figure is a quadrilateral. Doesn't matter if it's a trapezoid or a parallelogram, it is also under the blanket of a quadrilateral. If it's a trapezoid, it stops there. You can't classify that any lower. If it's a parallelogram, it could be a rhombus or it could be a rectangle if it has 4 90-degree angles. So something that is a rhombus is also a parallelogram. Something that's a square is also either a parallelogram or a quadrilateral. Regular polygons are just a nice word for saying something like a square. In a regular polygon, all sides have equal measure, like in a square. So if I want to find the measure of each angle in a regular polygon, I'm going to use my formula. But instead of finding the sum of all of the angles, I want to find just the measure of one. So I'm going to need to take that angle measure. In this case, in our example, we had the 720, and I'm going to divide it by the number of sides or the number of angles. And so that means that each angle in the shape measures 120 degrees. And so one of our last topics here is perimeter. And perimeter is where you take all the sides of a polygon and you add them together. So it just describes the length of everybody. So the perimeter of a triangle would be A plus B plus C. The perimeter for a square is a special situation because all 4 sides are equal, so we can say that's 4S. And then for a rectangle, I know that my length and my width are equal, so I could take the length and double it, and then take the width and double it, and sum those together to find my final answer. So here's an example where I have a rectangle, and my rectangle is going to be 95 feet wide by 70 feet long. How much fence do I need? Perimeter finds out how much you will need to cover the outline of a figure. Well, I'm going to use the perimeter formula. I'm going to say 2 times my length plus 2 times my width is going to be 2 times 70, 2 times 95, which is ultimately going to be 330. So I will need at least 330 feet. And this example, the length of each outside wall. So if the length of each outside wall is the same, first of all, I have a square. How many miles does he walk during his one shift? So the sentry must walk the outside wall 6 times during his 4-hour shift. So if I'm thinking about that, the pentagon has 5 sides, and each side has a length of 921 feet. So if I take the perimeter, it would be 5 times 921 because this is regular. Each piece is the same measurement. If he walks that 6 times, then I'm going to have to take that distance and multiply it by 6. And then convert it to miles, which is where the 5.23 miles comes from.